Picture a hunter trudging through the freezing Maine woods. The ice cracks, and suddenly the stitching on his brand new boots gives way. Freezing water immediately floods in, soaking his foot. For most new businesses, a product failing this miserably on its very first production run would dictate an immediate shutdown. But this specific disaster in 1912 is exactly what created L.L.Bean. Instead of hiding the defect, the founder leaned directly into the failure. He used a fatal flaw in a rubber and leather hunting shoe to build a billion-dollar retail empire, anchored entirely by an uncompromising guarantee to the customer. To understand why a merchant would choose to build his reputation on a defective product, you have to look at the unforgiving landscape that shaped him long before he ever sold a single shoe. In the 1880s, young Leon lived in rural Maine. When he was 12, both parents died within 4 days of each other. With no safety net, he was passed between relatives, and his formal education stopped completely after the 8th grade. He was forced into early self-reliance. To earn a living, he tracked deer and trapped animals alone through the brutal, freezing Maine winters, selling whatever furs he could gather. The wilderness was an exact and punishing teacher. If a snare was tied incorrectly, you caught nothing. If your gear leaked, you suffered. Every hour in the woods reinforced an obsessive attention to detail. By 1911, Leon was a 39-year-old shopkeeper working in his brother's dry goods store in Freeport. He spent every spare moment hunting, and he was continually frustrated by leather boots that soaked through and left his feet freezing. He sketched out a practical solution. He took a lightweight leather upper and had a local cobbler stitch it directly onto a waterproof rubber galosh. Calling it the Maine hunting shoe, he drafted a 3-page flyer and mailed it to a list of out-of-state hunters. 100 people bought a pair. On paper, combining rubber and leather solved the problem perfectly. However, the moment those boots hit the harsh reality of the Maine wilderness, the design's critical weakness was exposed. The stitches holding leather to the rubber simply could not handle the stress of active use. The seams ripped apart mid-stride, leaving customers miles out in the frozen woods with ruined boots and soaking wet feet. The returns started arriving at the Freeport store almost immediately. Out of the first 100 pairs he shipped, 90 were sent back as completely defective. A 90% defect rate is a crisis for any manufacturer. For a brand new mail-order business operating out of a basement, it meant total financial ruin. The cost of producing that first batch had depleted almost everything Leon had. The standard business playbook for a merchant in 1912 facing this kind of loss was straightforward. You kept the cash, blamed the cobbler, and quietly moved on to another venture. Leon did the exact opposite. He did not argue or offer store credit. He dug into his empty pockets and issued a full cash refund to angry customers. He refused to treat the returns as a standard operational loss. By absorbing the cost as a strict personal debt of honor, he unintentionally laid the groundwork for his entire retail empire. Refusing to abandon the idea, Leon borrowed $400 and traveled to the United States Rubber Company in Boston. He sat down with professional engineers to personally oversee a permanent fix for the bond between the leather and the rubber. Once the redesigned boot was ready, he took an immense gamble. He wrote up a new flyer and mailed it to the same list of non-resident hunters, the very people whose feet he had soaked months prior. And they ordered from him again. They did not trust the boot yet, but they trusted the man in Maine who had immediately returned their money without making a single excuse. Leon recognized the immense value of that trust. He codified his actions into a formal company policy, promising 100% satisfaction on every product, with no fine print, no receipt required, and no expiration date. That specific reputation shielded the company during the Great Depression. While discretionary spending vanished nationwide, hunters still needed reliable gear to feed their families. Knowing their money was entirely safe with Leon's guarantee, customers kept buying, pushing the company past $1 million in annual sales by 1937. In an environment defined by intense economic scarcity, a company proving it was willing to take a financial hit to protect a buyer turned out to be the most lucrative marketing strategy it could possibly deploy. As the catalog business expanded through the following decades, it faced the classic problem of scale. How do you maintain the highly personal, uncompromising voice of the founder when you are processing thousands of orders? In 1951, Leon provided the answer by making a highly unusual logistical decision. he walked down to his flagship retail store in Freeport, Maine, and completely removed the locks from the front doors. He reasoned that sportsmen often drove through the night to reach the woods before dawn. Rather than force a tired hunter to wait outside in the cold for normal business hours, the store simply wouldn't close. The Freeport store began operating 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It became a physical legend in the retail world, drawing visitors who just wanted to see the shop that never locked up. Keeping the lights on at 3 in the morning proved to the public that the customer-first ethos forged in 1912 operated as a permanent operational law, far exceeding any temporary promotional tactic. L.L.Bean passed away in 1967, at the age of 94. By then, his mail-order business was doing $5 million a year in sales, and his original vision of direct accountability remained completely untouched. Leadership passed to his grandson, Leon Gorman, who took over leadership of the company and spent the next several decades methodically scaling the company's catalog and retail operations. Under Gorman's watch, L.L.Bean grew from $5 million to over $1.6 billion in annual revenue by 2013, maintaining a massive global footprint while remaining entirely privately owned by the Bean family. Without a stock ticker or public shareholders demanding quarterly growth at the expense of quality, the company successfully preserved the uncompromising survival principles of a 12-year-old orphaned farm boy. It is the ultimate legacy of a single defective product. A ruined vintage shoe morphs into a pristine modern boot, carrying with it a century-long promise that a deal is only done when the customer is entirely satisfied. If you want to see more deep dives into the history that built our modern world, hit the like button and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what topic we should explore next.